Welcome to AMS Asia, and welcome to our guest, Daniel Tsai, Chairman of Fubon Holdings. Daniel, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Andy.
Pleasure to talk to you and talk to you about your company. And why don't we start off there, Daniel? The company is involved in insurance, banking, telecom, media. Can you give us an update of all the businesses you're in and which are most important to your bottom line?
Okay, of course, the financial services side obviously has the largest assets and also the largest profit. And other business like mobile, and we have also one of the largest cable system here in Taiwan, and we also own the largest e-commerce online shopping site here in Taiwan called Momo. Everyone, I guess, in this business is trying to emulate what Amazon has been doing, but compared to Amazon, we are still a baby in terms of size. And many businesses have been affected by the COVID, but we are very fortunate that most of our business have not only not being impacted adversely by the pandemic, but it has even helped us a little bit, like our mobility business, our internet broadband business, even our online shopping business have been greatly benefited from the pandemic. The shutdown of other businesses, the lockdown, the travel restrictions. And the financial markets of the world have still been spinning, and we have just seen all this the newest quarterly reports from all the major Wall Street banks, and you must know they are all making a record profits, and I think because of the pandemic, and because of the easing, of the money supply, the financial assets value have been greatly inflated and helping all of the financial sector businesses all in all.
So we've talked about COVID-19 and the pandemic, and you talked about how that affected your businesses and benefited some because of, say, the stay-at-home environment. But has it caused you, Daniel, to rethink the way you do business in any of these sectors?
Yeah, of course. We all know that the biggest lesson we have learned from the pandemic is how, the world we're in, how fragile that is. It has caused a lot of disruption in supply chain and in the breakdown of the public health system, and it also has changed people's way of living. And we were talking about lockdowns and travel restrictions have impacted most sectors of the economy. And I'm not saying that we are not 100% not affected at all. On the financial asset side, the value of them might have increased, but in terms of our services to the real economy, we have been impacted, and we have to try to do different ways of serving our customers. And as many people have been talking about, I guess, sectors across the economy, and all of the financial institutions and organizations, we, for the last 2 years have all tried to become more digitized, to try to go digital in terms of their way of working internally, communicating externally, and offering their services and such. So it has brought great changes to the business community, and here in Taiwan we are no exception.
I know the stock market in Taiwan has been very strong, Has that benefited you guys, and why has the stock market been so strong in Taiwan?
I think Taiwan economically has been least affected by the pandemic. We were very lucky because we closed down the border very quickly last year. And you know, here people are very self-disciplined. You go on the street, people wear masks voluntarily. So we were able to stop the virus at the gate, you know. So our economy was pretty much intact. In fact, we grew by, you know, 3 or 4% last year. And that, of course, was the foundation, the fundamental factor why the equity market has been performing very strongly. And we are an export-oriented economy, and our export has been growing despite all this disruption in the world, supply chain. So, profit of most of the listed company had been growing quite strongly. There are some sectors like the hospitality business, which have been impacted. But you know that for example, the world is now facing with a shortage of semiconductors, and the prices of semiconductors have gone up, and orders are backing up like crazy, and so leading companies here in Taiwan like TSMC, its stock prices have to go up, and many other. Its ecosystem companies here in Taiwan have all benefited from the strong demand globally for ICs.
Yeah, Taiwan Semiconductor obviously become a very important global player. I do want to ask you about Taiwan Mobile, which you mentioned, Daniel, and how that business is doing and how the sector is doing.
I always like to tell people that, when we started out as one of the private sector mobile operator here in Taiwan in the late 90s, mobile was a very sexy business. It was growing very fast, as penetration grew from 0 to over 100%. And the technology in those days, because of the invention of this mobility, of ubiquitous mobility, had make us look very tech savvy, as a company. But that was the 2G GSM old days, when ARPU was growing, total revenue growing. The 3G, then came 3G, and it was okay because it brought the usage of data, which had also given us quite high growth. But then 4G came, and 4G we know that make the mobile internet exploded, and it has created a lot of the so-called platform businesses. They are all very big scalers using the mobile internet connectivity that mobile operators like us have been providing. But somehow we have not participated in this migration of value. We became dumb pipes. We spend the money building out CapEx, building out the network, and enable all these tech, so-called big techs. Most of them, other than some of the hardware companies, are the so-called platform companies, and we all know how greatly they have performed. But we were left with not even breadcrumb as a mobile operator in total. And here in Taiwan, we are particularly even hurt by the so-called unlimited data rate plan. Because as a small economy, we have 5 players. So, the price competition is so severe. And before we could even could have even recovered the capex in building out the 4G networks, now comes 5G. We have to spend more bidding for the spectrum, spend even more building out. We all know that the 5G network is more expensive than 4G, but we have high hopes that in maybe a couple of years we will see a diversity of new applications combining technology and telecommunication. People are talking about metaverse. This any services in the metaverse universe would have to be enabled by our connectivity and the so-called edge computing and low latency and all of that. So we are hoping that we have missed out the last opportunity. Perhaps we should try to be more active in participating in the invention of the next wave of new technology combining with telecom services.
Right. Fubon is the first Taiwanese bank with subsidiaries in China. Tell us about doing business in China and how that's changed and what the outlook is right now. Big topic.
Yes. Well, we have tried to crack open the China market because here in Taiwan the financial services market is very saturated. So if we want to grow, we have to go outside, and very naturally we were planning to go to China. Same language, same culture. We thought that the experience we had here in developing what we thought was more advanced financial services would give us a head start over there in China. But that it's very difficult to get entry into China. So it took us a very long time to try to gain entry, especially the very complex cross-strait political situation. Sometimes it's not just China. It could be Taiwanese regulator or government pulling your leg, preventing you from going too freely into China. And once you were granted entry into the Chinese market, I always want to describe that then you start to bump into many what we call glass doors. You looks like the doors open, but you go in, there are many layers of glass doors, and you have to try to open those glass doors without breaking them. Breaking them meaning breaking the rule, and then you are doomed. So the growth in China for us has been very, very slow, and the Chinese, I have to say that on the one way saying that they are opening up the market, on the other because of they set up all these glass doors, have created even global financial giants much larger than we are, have trouble developing their businesses over there in China. Well, we know that Goldman, JP Morgan had all just got their 100% ownership of their securities business in China. But that was 20 years late. The market over in China has been different. We know that this new regulatory actions, I don't know if against is the right word, towards many sectors like private education, like social media, like gaming, or even the entertainment industry is now under a different set of regulation. So China is moving. It's like a moving target. If you are trying to do business like shooting an arrow. You are really shooting at a very moving target. But after all, it's a very large market and it's still growing. Therefore, I don't think that we should, give up. We would have to, and we've spent already so much time and energy. We have to try to do more. We have to cope with the regulation and find our own niche. In a big market, you can be, thinking of a higher percentage of market share, but you can try to be a niche player, as China is trying to make its society or nation a more, common prosperity one, or one with more common prosperity. I'm sure that serving the little guys, the smaller businesses, is a way to go for us.
Yeah, let me just ask a quick follow-up question, Daniel, about China, and that is, what do you think its growth prospects are, given this new regulatory environment, common prosperity? We saw GDP growth there was a little bit slower than anticipated. How optimistic are you about China overall?
Well, I'm still, I have to say, conservatively optimistic. China will have its problem. Its internal political or geopolitical problems, and it will have its own set of social problems. It's a different system. It's one that many Westerners cannot fully understand. But it's a big country, and it has to have a way that it can function on its own, and so that the society can have more stability. I think to make everybody rich is still the guiding principle of the Communist Party over there. Even they call it common prosperity. They first started wanting a few to get richer, but along the way they want the richer people to help the more poor, and they thought that the richer people have not done that enough. That's why the state had to step in and create more. And the whole world is faced with this inequity problem. But China is tackling it with its own different way because of its very unique political system. In other countries, the state, we will have many people asking the government to take actions, but when the government wants to take action, there are many oppositions, and so then you have to try to reach a compromise so that everybody can move in the same direction. China is different. That's why I think China will have its problems, will have its challenges, but its economy will continue to grow. It's a huge market, and in fact, this disruption or decoupling of supply chain may not hurting them. It's making them want to be more self-reliant and want to be more independent. And in the long run, that may help them rather than hurt them.
Right. I want to shift gears a little bit, Daniel, and ask you about Warren Buffett. He has built a massive holding company that initially branched out into the insurance business. Fuban similarly began in insurance before it went into banking, media, and other ventures. Do you consider Berkshire Hathaway to be a model for you? And have you learned lessons from Warren Buffett?
Funny you mentioned it. The first time I ever heard of Warren Buffett's name was, I have a business partner, my younger brother. He's the one who said that we have to model after Warren Buffett. I said, who is Warren Buffett? The only word I understand is a meal that you go to, Buffett, buffet. So this guy's name is Warren Buffett, and he said yes. And I asked him, what does he do? He said he's like us. He's an insurance company. But of course, the law and regulations in the States are different from the laws and the regulations here in Taiwan. we are not allowed to own more than 10% of a listed company, for example. We cannot even nominate or vote for directorship on a listed company. So we would not be able to do the things that Warren Buffett or Berkshire Hathaway has been doing. But definitely it's commitment or it's religion in making long-term investment, in making investment in a company that they think will never disappear, in long-lasting businesses, and they take a very long view on investment. This is something we have to try to learn and model after. After all, I think all people in the life or in other insurance businesses must think of Warren Buffett as their teacher.
I want to ask you about a specific investment, and that is a $64 million round in the US battery maker, Nanotech Energy, which makes batteries for electrical vehicles as well as consumer electronics. Tell us about why you did that and why you're optimistic there.
We all know that vehicles are going to be electrified. This is the trend. And because of the climate change crisis that we are facing, and Europe is even going to ban selling of internal combustion vehicles very soon. I believe it's 2030, if I'm correct. So, getting vehicles electrified is a huge thing. The largest contract manufacturer is called Foxconn here in Taiwan. They just had their technology day, launching 3 models of electrical vehicle. But we all know that electrical vehicle is powered by batteries. And the biggest defect of battery, traditional lithium battery, it would go on fire. It's flammable. So to make battery not only effective, high performance, but safe is a huge challenge. And we somehow came across nanotechnology, this company, and it uses graphene, pure graphene in making inflammable, non-inflammable batteries. And they are the first company to able to make pure graphene in mass production, in scales. So and also the material, because it's natural. I'm sorry, I'm not a material scientist. I can use too many technology to describe how great the product is, but it's thin. It's a small area and it's highly conductive. So it has many other applications. Like shielding of electromagnetic wave, things like that. So we think that this company they are building our new factories in the States, ramping up production to help the battery makers. So I think the company will have a great future, and this is the type of investment why our life company have to invest also outside of Taiwan, because we are a small economy, and the problem with a small economy is our market is not enough to support any real disruptive innovation. We may have small innovation here and there, but our market is not large enough to support a large scale technology innovation. That's why we have to look outward. We have to look for technologies which would benefit, not only Taiwan, but the global market as a whole. And Taiwan, as we were saying earlier, is export oriented, and all these export surpluses have turned into domestic savings. And the interest rate here in Taiwan is very low, and direct investment opportunities are not a lot for individual investors. For large companies like Foxconn and for TSMC maybe, but for small retailers, they have their money have nowhere to go. The savings rate is so low, but they still save. So, collectively, individuals here in Taiwan have been investing overseas, but mostly in financial assets. That's why, as a life insurance company, we kind of aggregate also savings from the individuals, but we have way to help them invest, not only in financial assets, making bets or arbitrage in interest rate, but we can also help them invest in real economy. That's why we, or as I was saying earlier, in innovative technology. So we invest a lot directly in new technologies, and we try to also do all sorts of alternative investment like PEs, infrastructures, and all of that.
As we wrap things up here, Daniel, I want to ask a personal question or two. You got a bachelor's degree in Taiwan before coming to Georgetown University to get a law degree in the United States, then went back to work for Fubon. What were your years like in the US? And did you pick up anything specific that you applied to business when you went back?
Well, that was a long time ago. I went to the States in 1978, right out of college, and came back after my graduate legal study at Georgetown, and I also worked in New York as an underwriting trainee for an insurance company there for a year. So I came back in 1981. That was also a long time ago. So I was in the States working plus going to school for a total about 3 years. I have to say it was the best 3 years for me. For me in those days, going from Taiwan to the States is like a door or a window open to a different view. And I was a young man, and I could, as a young man, I think the benefit of being young is you learn things very fast. So when I came back, I used to, tell people, boast to people that, I'm one of the few in Taiwan who have learned insurance in English. Because when I worked in New York, my company sent me to, I remember, it's called Insurance College, and it was still at 123 Williams Street. That was an old address, some 40 years ago address. So, that was the first time I've ever had a chance to come into contact with the knowledge of insurance. And I was very happy that I learned it in English. As we know, even all the policies worldwide in Marine is still in English. And my father was very wise. In those days, if you were a law student in Taiwan trying to go abroad, as you know, we are a continental law country, so we don't go to Anglo-Saxon law legal system country like the U.S. We would try to go to Japan, go to Germany, to do our graduate study. But my father had great visions. My father said that the global commercial language will have to be English. Why don't you go to the United States and try to learn some English? It will be very helpful eventually if you take over the family business. And I have nothing but thankfulness, gratefulness to his great vision. It has really benefited me a lot. I still read English newspaper, especially the business section, almost every day. Every day I learned what's going on outside of Taiwan, because especially after the pandemic, you don't get to go out. So what do? Of course, you watch some news, but most of the more in-depth knowledge you gain from what other people are doing outside of Taiwan. I gain it from reading a lot of articles in English.
Daniel, you mentioned your father, and I just want to end on that note, if we could, which is you talked about
I'm sorry, you could see him behind me, still watching my back.
He's got your back.
Picture. That's the picture of him. I'm sorry, on the other side of the.
Right, got it.
Yeah.
He insisted that you go and learn the English system, the American system. Any other lessons that he passed the company on to you and your brother, obviously? Any other lessons that he imparted to you that you think are so important?
Yeah, well, he used to say that there are 3 principles that you have to adhere to when you run the business after me. My father started out as a founder of a very small property and casualty company, and look at where we are now. We have almost bits and pieces of business here and there, and it's size-wise is no comparison to where we just started. And it's very simple, because we started out as a P&C insurer. So he said that you have to be do your business honestly. As we know that the contract insurance is the contract of good faith. So you have to, honesty comes first. Then Chinese all want their children to work diligently. He said, secondly, you have to work diligently. And third, you have to try to be humble. Once you are successful. It's very Chinese teaching, but it has new meanings too, like being humble. Nowadays, you look around and look at the climate crisis we are in. You know that the so-called being humble is not just being humble, to your friends, to your co-workers, to the people around you, but be humble to nature. To try to live, coexist with nature. That's what I think that all of his teaching had. You can find new meanings in it and apply it to what you are doing today, business-wise.
Daniel Tsai, Chairman of Fubon Holdings, thank you so much for joining AMS Asia.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.